If you're a subscriber of the Zam Madden YouTube channel, chances are you're fairly into match coverage. It's been a staple of my defense since 2019 when EA put it into the game. But a lot of players will call match and they don't fully understand what is driving the coverage. What are some of the do's and don'ts of match? And this year in particular, this can be a real issue against trip sets and some of those pesky 4 strong alignments where the running back aligns to the same side as the 3 receiver side. So in today's video, we're going to go over what to expect out of the quarter flat zone, because I think a lot of people think it's a flat zone when in fact it's really not. And removing it to make it a flat can really screw up your backside coverage, which leads to one of the more popular routes in the game getting open. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit that notification bell, grab out your pen and pad. Let's get after it. Now we're going to start off here with some basic quarters knowledge here. We're going to go against a 3-by-1 formation. We've talked about the numbering system of match coverage before. I always say if you can count to 4, you can play match coverage. This is true of quarters-based defenses as well as cover 3 match and also cover 2 match. And you guys can find all the rules for these coverages, how I use them to defend popular formations on my strategy website, gridirongameplans.gg. Link is in the description, and the product that you guys want to take a look when you subscribe is our match coverage Bible. I've been using this all season long to counter the most prominent metas, the most effective tactics available. These are the formations that pro players use, thus you're going to face them online because everybody wants to run the best formations in the game and beat all the stock coverages. I think match is one of the best coverages to handle stuff as long as you know what you're doing, and that's why this channel exists, to help you guys out with understanding what drives these coverages. Now, one of the things that we're going to talk about here today, or the primary thing we're going to talk about today, is the quarter flat roll. In particular, the quarter flat as it relates to the running back. This is what we call a 3-by-1 formation. To the right side of the quarterback, we have 3 receiving options. To the left of the quarterback, we have a solo receiver up on the line of scrimmage with a running back in the backfield to the quarterback's left as well. Whenever you have a formation like this, this creates what is called a solo check. On the solo receiver side of the formation, you're going to get this quarter flat that's essentially going to be hard-coded to man the running back. This also will, depending on where the receiver is lined, sometimes if they're in a little bit tighter, it will either put the receiver responsible to the outside corner, like you see here with Davis, or if they sometimes run like a shallow cross, there will be times where the safety will cut this route. Again, this all depends on things like being on a hash mark or being on the short side of the field versus the wide side of the field. There are some rules there. We're not going to focus on those here today, but let's just go ahead and get into what a lot of players don't get about this quarter flat. And that is simply that they think that the quarter flat, if the running back doesn't run a route, is a flat zone. And this can sometimes be the case, but there will be times, however, where if the running back is on a route that maybe stays in the backfield or maybe sometimes crosses underneath or runs a Texas, that flat sometimes ends up becoming vacated. And you see right here that this is kind of what ends up occurring here. Fortunately for us, our 3-rec hook took this, but it is very, very common. And you see players online that will do this. They like to user this player and they think that they've got flat support help to this side. So imagine a user on Brian Dawkins. The ball snapped, he runs underneath. You see you've got a flat here, so you stop guarding that player. But because this player is actually responsible for the running back, he turns into basically kind of like a pseudo hook or a quarterback spy. It's definitely not a flat zone. You see right here that it's very easy for this drag to cross the face of this player. And a lot of players will take this check down and rat catch it up the field. Unfortunately for us, like I said, Dawkins did a fine job, but if your user's too slow, or sometimes the AI gets picked by running into that player that is kind of spying over the middle, this throw is open. So a lot of players get super, super frustrated with this and they say, all right, well, let's go ahead here, since I'm getting beat on a drag, let's go ahead and just turn this guy into a hard flat. And while that can be effective, what ends up occurring is that you lose the rules of who is supposed to match the running back if he does run a route. So let's say he does run a pattern. You see in this example, now nobody's matching the running back and he's just wide open. And the only thing that is saving you is going to be a pass rush, which we fortunately got there in that rep. It's no bueno. We don't have match rules. The other thing that's really important to note is that match coverage is driven completely by what type of flat zone you have on the field. In a cover 4 defense, such as quarters, palms, and then also the split field coverages that utilize cover 4 rules, such as cover 6 and cover 9, you will have that cover 4 side with a quarter flat. And if you turn off your match coverage, not only does this screw up who takes the running back, this also completely screws up who takes the solo receiver on that side of the field. So I want to show you something here. If I leave the quarter flat on the field, you're going to notice that when Tyreek Hill runs like a backside dig, which is super popular, you will see that you will at least have someone try to match it. Whether or not it actually gets open is going to be dictated by route running and other different things like man coverage, play recognition. There are a few other things that matter, but the important thing to note here is that on this, somebody tried. The player that tried to match him was Carlton Davis, number 7. He was in an outside leverage, which made the in break of Tyreek Hill be able to be something you could throw and maybe get a possession catch. And you see right here that we were able to do that. But there will be times where you're going to have a leverage advantage, and that's actually a great call for you when you have a guy matched perfectly and the technique is correct, and you have somebody that's actually playing it. You're going to see here that if I remove the quarter flat, because we're getting beat underneath to the running back on a table route or maybe a drag from the other side, and we say, I need a hard flat, this is going to completely relinquish the match coverage responsibilities of our safety and the outside corner, turning this side of the field effectively into cover 4 drop. Now you're going to see that this dig is much more open. And you see right there that there was nothing really able to impact that throw. I could have thrown that back shoulder. I could have thrown that as a pass lead forward. Really, it's just going to be open on the in cut at that second level of the defense. So that is our number one thing that we have to understand, is that when you remove the quarter flat, not only are you ruining your match rules for the running back, but you're also ruining the match rules for the deep zones on that side of the field as well, which is why a lot of players are so confused by how match coverage works. The same thing can be said for what it's worth, while this isn't the topic of this video, for this side of the field. If I were to change this quarter flat to a hard flat, it turns off match for all the other players, which means that depending on the formation alignment, you might end up with a corner route that would normally be matched being wide open on the sideline. And you see right here that we didn't have anybody to match him. Now, fortunately, we got a KO on that play, but that's not something you can live on compared to maybe something like this here, where I leave the match coverage alone. And you see that we have somebody that actually takes the corner man to man on this play. So again, quarter flats must be on the field if you're going to play match coverage. Other things you can't do involve custom stemming. So if I were to take this linebacker and custom stem him down, this is actually going to completely change and turn off the match coverage rules all the same. So you're going to see once again that if I snap off that dig route, there's no match on X again. So you cannot custom stem or zone drop with a quarter flat either. You have to leave a stock quarter flat in order for match rules to play out. This is also super important because the quarter flat, as I've just mentioned, is responsible for taking the running back. If that running back runs a Texas route, you want somebody to be on that throw. A lot of players love a Texas route and a playmaker against zone. You need something that can match it when you're playing man-to-man. So it's really, really important that you guys get this. This quarter flat is not a flat defender. He is the driver of the entire match rules of the side of the defense he's on, and he has responsibilities to the running back when you're dealing with a 4-strong alignment. Now, you sometimes can get away with playing a quarter flat, and if the running back were to swing to the opposite side of the field, you see that sometimes they'll relinquish the rules here. Right here in this example, he actually went unchecked. But this rule is especially important when you're defending some of these meta formations in the game. Now, bunch X nasty, bunch strong, those are all super, super popular. Bunch strong is what we would consider a 4-strong alignment. Now, while we don't have bunch strong in this formation, we do have another formation that is what you would call 4-strong in the form of Y off trio close. This is the one that really confuses people because you don't really understand what the quarter flat is doing unless you're a match connoisseur. So let's go and call that same quarters defense here, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. So now we are in a 3-by-1 formation, but this 3-by-1 formation is different in that the running back in the backfield here is on the trip side. Believe it or not, a lot of players don't realize that the quarter flat on the weak side of the formation, the shapeshifter in this regard, is still responsible for the running back. So if I reset this play, you see the fresh play art, you're going to see that the running back goes to the flat. You're going to end up with this player being responsible for chasing or doing a push call. You see in this particular call, because the running back goes quick to the flat, he jumps over to that side, but then he realizes that he has help on the other side. So you see right here, initially, he immediately cheats over. And you're going to see that the other zones are going to bump over in their match responsibility, and you end up with this flat jumping the running back out of the backfield. This can be a problem, however, when you're running a defense such as the cover 9, and this is my absolute favorite defense in the game, but it does have some issues, not necessarily issues, but some things you need to know when you're dealing with those same 4 strong alignments. So in this example, we don't have cover 4 match to the right, we have cover 2 match to the right. So in this particular example, if we end up going with like verticals and then the running back is just attacking the flat, this can be a real pain because you don't necessarily always have that push. Now, in this example, the shapeshifter did get over there and made that play on his own, but you see that he has a long way to travel, and we don't necessarily, in all cases, have someone that can jump in the flat. The offense dictates what our underneath zones can do. So it just defaults back to this flat defender on the backside still has to play man-to-man. And fortunately, he did an okay job here. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, I can get away without playing match coverage here, I'll just play a hard flat because I know somebody's running a drag, yada, yada. Well, that's not necessarily the best call, because if they do end up putting somebody into the flat, you will end up in a lot of cases with a wide open cover 2 beater here. And again, that's pretty simple work. Okay. So you have to leave that quarter flat in order to keep this coverage correct, especially when dealing with outside floods in a 4 strong. So let's go back to that same call here, but this time I don't change anything. You're going to see here in this example, now we have somebody that actually mans the corner, and we have to make sure that somebody can take the running back. It's going to be that quarter flat from the backside. The other thing that you have to remember too is that you're not going to end up with this quarter flat able to take a drag because he is cheating across. So this drag to the tight end is usually a problem when you're dealing with this. A lot of players think, all right, well, I got to play that hard flat again. And then again, the corner route becomes open. So you have to know that that quarter flat drives everything. When you have that quarter flat on the field, the running back is not considered as somebody that needs to be matched on the right side of the formation. Basically, the cover 2 side of this defense realizes the running back is not responsible to them because the quarter flat on the other side of the field exists. So they can handle the other 3 players with the 3-rec hook, the vertical hook, and the soft squat. So what I traditionally do when I'm playing a cover 9 against this type of 4 strong is I'm going to play on the 3-rec and I'm going to cheat to the under, and you see what this looks like. Everything else is matched. That backside cross to the receiver that we've been throwing the dig to in the other formation, he's matched as well. So you have to know that these quarter flats are the driver of everything in the match coverage. And when you remove them, you take on considerable risk in that you're going to have other routes that are just going to be wide open on the field. And this is a major turnoff for a lot of players, but there are solves for this. So let's say that you're still getting beat over the middle. You're running this cover 9, and you have to really maybe still focus on the flat on the solo receiver side. So I'm going to go right back to this here. One of the things I'm a major fan of in this is I will run a call where I will just stunt to the right side, or the quarterback arm side, which is usually right. But if you're facing Vic, it would be maybe a left stunt, which we'll talk about something for that here in a moment. So let's say, for example, I'm still getting beat on this drag to the tight end, but I, for whatever reason, can't use this 3-rec hook to cheat on it. What I have to do is I have to put somebody in the flat that is not a match player. So usually that is going to be an edge player. For what it's worth, you guys can put better coverage linebackers at this spot. If you have like a pass coverage linebacker, you can drop into this role. That is probably preferred over a guy like Max Crosby, who's more of a rush specialist. But now in this example, I can come up here and guard this. And you're going to see now when we run this particular call that I actually have the drag to Laporta bracketed. If it beats the 3-rec, that's fine. I've got Crosby in the flat. The other thing that I will do to help this defense out considerably is I will actually shift my quarter flat towards the running back, because if that running back goes out quick to that flat, I want him to be over there. Okay, so now I play this defense like so, and I'm hoping for stunt pressure. It's not mandatory, but you see, I don't have to worry about that drag. It's not something I have to worry about. I can poach in the middle of the field, and then you let your pass rush go to work. And I tend to prioritize having double or nothings, or, you know, the pass rushing abilities on the players who are rushing the passer. And I'm taking away that backside check down without sacrificing the match rules of the overall coverage. Yes, it is a 3-man rush, but at the end of the day, this is what you guys will need to do to kind of help yourself out. When that quarter flat is required to make the coverage work, but maybe you're still getting beat underneath, you have to recruit somebody to drop into that window. And I do think, for what it's worth, the pass rush post patch is good enough that you can get away with rushing 3. And then what I'll oftentimes do with this is I will just go ahead and put players in hard-coded man. So sometimes I will say, all right, well, you know what? I'm not getting what I need out of this coverage. That's okay. I will man up both of these players like so, and then I'll give myself the drag help that I need over here. And you could do something like this to makeshift it, and this will be fine. Essentially you're kind of turning the coverage into what it would be anyways, but you're just hard locking the assignments and avoiding any confusion. This will achieve the exact same thing for what it's worth, because when you still have that player manned up, the rest of the players on the field are not worried about matching. So if I were to go back to, you know, this type of call right here where Sayers goes quick to the flat, that's not going to confuse my quarter flat to jumping down. You still see that now we have the ability to throw the ball, or not throw the ball rather, to the B receiver, because the running back is manned up. So there are ways around the quarter flat issue. I think most of you are probably just going to need to understand what the quarter flats do. But for those of you that are pretty advanced with match, you guys understand what we call redistribution rules. Because I manned up this running back with somebody on the defense, the rest of the defense that is in match rules does not consider him a threat. You still end up with the same types of behaviors here. In this particular example, you still see the corner route got matched. The soft squat that is guarding number 10 doesn't bite back down to the flat because it's already manned up by somebody, and we're in an okay spot. And then as it pertains to this wide open drag or whatever that was formerly getting open, he's running into that same player we dropped into that window. This would be something for me to manually take or switch stick to if they were to playmaker him up the field. But I hope that this video helps you guys better understand what the drivers of match coverage are. Yes, check down game can be a little bit annoying to defend when playing match, but at the end of the day, it does cap a lot of the most popular throws people take, which are those seams, those posts, and those corner routes that pick up the chunk yardage. My mentality is always that when you play this type of coverage, it is in a way bend but don't break, but it also is a very turnover generating defense because most players don't understand how to attack it because they don't fully kind of understand how to run it at the same time. And that's why I've always said, whether or not you want to run this coverage, you have to know it in order to beat it, because there's so much intricacy to it that we can apply that can make it even better. Or if you know it, can actually play into your hands as an offensive player as well. So hopefully this video helped you guys out. If it did, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Check out gridirongameplans.gg for even more, and I'll be back here tomorrow with another video upload. Until then, this is Zan. Get the lab in. Good luck.